So I originally, after my journey, wasn't going to speak about this because I previously made an arrangement with everyone, the spirits, Mother Earth, and Gala, which is God, to not mention that. Because I made a deal that I could have any existence I chose after all I've been through if I were not to speak about this. I've been on a journey where I recognized who really has my interest at heart and who doesn't. And with my female parental figure, which is my Earth Mother, Mother Earth is the only one I consider mother. But the mother who put me on this planet, aka I'm receiving a lot of information at this moment. Excuse me. Oh, there's an ice cream parlor. Should I get ice cream? Nah, I'm good. And yeah. However, my mother has contributed a lot to how I used to think versus how I actually think. And it pains me that me as an individual, but also others surrounding this, have to go through this, which is the only reason why I made this video in the first place, because people apparently have to know. So I put my experiences down there so they can help others, and it's something I've processed and does not affect me to that extent. But after a long while, from my beginning of this lifeline journey till now, it did. Because seeing the dynamic between my parental figures really affected how I looked at the opposite sex versus how I looked at my own sexuality at one point. Yeah, these are heavy topics, but the dynamic between parental figures really contributes heavily to how a child sees the world, how the child develops in the world, and more likely than not, a lot of mental issues stem from the environment we grew up in. Even now, here in the Netherlands, as I'm not connected at all with life here, as strong as you are as a person, it's gonna end up affecting you either way. Either way, you, without you willingly, get sucked in other people's processes, other people's way of thinking and living. Because whether you like to believe that or not, there's really a lot a human can hold on to. A lot of trauma, a lot of unprocessed negative memories. Which, if you're a big fan of Alan Watts as I am, you'll know that, any memory you hold on to is just a form of undigested experiences. And when I woke up to that truth in real life, because you can only get so much out of podcasts and philosophy if you don't apply them in your actual life. But getting back to my mother, and it pains me to say, because growing up, even amidst all the abuse physically and psychologically from the male parental figure, my female parental figure was still my best friend. There was nothing we wouldn't talk about, nothing we wouldn't discuss. And I felt therefore always more connected with feminine rather than masculine. But with my mother, I really felt that. But as I grew older and started to recognize what I wanted for my life, is where we clashed. And started to figure out that we had a lot more differences than we had similarities. Because I found it also very annoying when people told me, yeah, you look so much like your father, you look so much like your mother, and all this. And for those of you who keep saying that, think about what you're doing to that child. Because for whatever compliment you think you're giving that child, actually creating a lot of confusion for that child, creating a lot of confusion and a whole lot of doubt. And if you don't know the situation, yeah, man, the amount of times that I would just wanted to scream inside of anger when I was being told something like that was astounding, really. And when I started to pursue art as a career, being in the Caribbean, there's a lot of stigma around that, especially where I grew up in Curacao, where there's a stigma you should go after the money. Like if you're a doctor or you're doing something with economics, that's the big thing. Art, yeah, even with a lot of Caribbean actors and other artists doing fairly well actually in Europe and others, it's still looked down upon as something negative, or something that, as long as they don't see the profit of it. But that's where we're gonna clash, because me and my mom clashed, at least heavily, because I only ever wanted to do what made me happy. Because literally in my upbringing, there was nothing to be happy about. And it took a long while, but as time went on, as life went on, I really figured out why she was, so heavily against me pursuing my own life. Because not a lot of expectation was put on me, that's true, but seeing as she got no love anywhere she went, me, and not just being her son, but also being a friend, I was basically her only source of love. She didn't get what she should have gotten out of her husband. And she definitely wasn't getting it in the rest of her environment, so I was the only source. And granted, me being a man and being oldest, I was also set of being the one who generates the most income. And I had this discussion with my brother Reese, and he's also from the Caribbean, and a lot of stigma is put on children to take care of their parents. And that was being thrown at me with my with my environment a lot. No one even bothered asking, even caring what I wanted out of life. But getting back to the issue at hand, it drains a person. It really does. And emotions are currently stirring up because yesterday I figured, and I had a chill vibe with William, but we were somehow ending up in that discussion about it, and really reflecting about it, it's really surprising how much I overcame. And yeah, but getting back to the stigma of children having to take care of their parents, because I see it a lot in other communities as well. It's not just Caribbean. It is Latin communities. It is African communities. There's a lot of communities, and even in some European countries as well, where children are being set up from day one to be a money-making machine for their family. And that was being put on a lot. Nothing about what made me me was ultimately respected throughout my environment. I had to fight hard to get to even not a single amount of support was given. Unless, of course, it made me money. And with me is like, money will come eventually. But that's not the same stigma in the Caribbean. And oh yeah, where I really wanted to get to was with my brother Reese discussing it, and really after a long talk, for all parents out there, and I got this quote from Daquan Wiltshire, because shouts out to Daquan, you're badass and you're funny as hell. I can't wait. Hey, I'm just putting it out there, man. If our paths cross one day, man, I can't wait to do a movie with you. You should have been in movies by now, bro. I ain't even bullshitting. But yeah. But I got this quote from Daquan. It says, like, look, don't ask any person, all right, to do something for you that you haven't been able to do for yourself. So this is all to future parents out there. Like, give your children the best memories, give them great things to look back to, and they would want to do that for you eventually. Because when love is planted, when love is given, love is returned. Simple as that. But having not had that example ever given to me, over time, after I went through my journey, I figured, like, wow, this particular woman is asking me to do something she never did for herself. Neither did the male parental figure, I can tell you that much, but for her to be constantly preaching about that. But there's a lot that happened in between the two conversations we just had, and yeah, I get distracted with different topics because there are so many connections, variables to take into account. And it might not be as easy to give you the full circle, but bits and pieces, they're going to be there. But having afterwards done 2 years of art academy, and granted, I didn't accomplish that goal I set out for myself, not recognizing there was just a fuck ton of baggage that came along with it. Psychological abuse, physical abuse, and later on in life, most recently actually, I discovered there was sexual abuse involved. And just like no support. But also, you know, it's like I said, you know, there's a line that I remembered from watching Daredevil, which is like, to kill someone without fear, how do you do that? And the answer was given by Colin Farrell's character Bullseye. Said by putting the fear in him. A lot of relationships, as I've come to know in Western worlds, are actually fear-based, not love-based. So after recognizing that a lot of people hold love hostage, and a lot of people hold closure just hostage as well. So, but then as I started moving towards in high school, I remember the 4th year, I told her that, yeah, I want to do art. I don't care for this. Like, I'm good at it, but I don't really care for these subjects. Art was storytelling. That was my thing. And I started noticing my mother's behavior change dramatically. And looking back now, I see a lot of, and emotions are stirring up again for some reason, but a lot was done afterwards to make me question myself. From the very person I thought who loved me, who had my interest at heart, who wanted the best for me. But recently I discovered I was surrounded by a lot of people who, because there's certain shit that people, if you really pay attention, a lot of people say some shit and you don't really like, why would they say something like that? And I remember just, you know, I was hanging out with more female friends, I remember, and getting into an argument one day, and it's like, yeah, and you're working out, and it's for those bitches. I'm like, excuse me? Like, you don't know these women, so you calling them that is like disrespectful as fuck. But I wondered, like, why she even did that? Why even communicate like that? And ultimately, yeah, I was working out, but yeah, for myself, healthy, beautiful, because I had that stigma put on me by fat shaming. I used to be 12 years old and still 110K. So yeah, I'm working out because what I worked hard for, I wanted to maintain. Simple as that. And, you know, but I really started to question, like, why she made that switch. And ultimately, you know, when the Art Academy didn't work, and there were a lot of factors to why the Art Academy didn't work for me, and I'll get into more detail on that some other time. That might be brought up now. I don't know. Universe telling me a multitude of things right now. And yes, I do look like somebody's garden gnome. Thank you for that comment, by the way. And you should have seen me with the blue hoodie on. So like, you look like a real life Smurf. And it's like, that's right. I'll go into your garden, I'll shit on it, and I'll smoke some weed. I don't smoke weed at all, but that's a whole other video. Yeah, and when a lot of factors ended up for me not graduating, but I remember being depressed, and my feminine parental figure started to come by, and I was just love depressed. Like, when you've had no love in your house, no love whatsoever in your upbringing, and you finally have some validation of love outside and it crumbles, it just like, I was depressed. I was done. and I seeked anything I could to find comfort, and it wasn't working. And my mom planted the seed that would forever change my outlook on how I viewed my mother afterwards. Because she would go on and say, you know what, Quentin, it's better this way. Because right now you have nothing to offer. And looking back, I was like, how fucking dare you? And it's no wonder that immediately after she left, I became suicidal. Because those words that she implanted stuck around in my system. And no matter how many times she tried to deny it, the truth hurts. And for all men out there who cater so much to their mothers, like I did, and be blinded by what actually is being said. Because we hold people in way too much of a high regard, in my experience of life. We hold a pedestal in Western society up to people way too high. And that was an ant that came by. By the way, I'm filming this in the ground in a park where I'm just chilling. But that's not really where the relationship with my mother declined, because that realization I came to much later. I wouldn't say I was naive. I was just unaware of my changing surroundings, and not experiencing until much later that my mind had to do with it, my body. It's I'm looking at a bee right now. It's great seeing that process. I get zen just by looking at that. But yeah, I'm not realizing that my mind and all the unprocessed shit I had in my past contributed to a lot of it. So yeah, are there any tips for that? It's like, this not just applies to mothers, but when you're with your friends, when you're with people you're close to, really pay attention to not just what they're saying, but how they're saying it. Because that intent, once you know yourself, if you're spiritually sensitive and aware of what's going on, you will have that pretty clear very shortly. And but it wasn't until much later in my life where I came to that realization. For those of you who don't know, I am turning 30. Some say I'm older. Most people say I'm younger, but yeah, I'm turning that age. And a lot of emotions are stirring up right now as I'm talking about this, because like I said, originally I wasn't going to talk about this. I was more than happy to leave it where it was and move forward in life. But intuition tells you something, and I've often denied my intuition as well, but I'm not denying this one, because a lot of young men are hurting because of that. And after conversations with other people in like-minded situations, I'm like, yeah, this really needs to be put to the ground and have that full circle moment of reflection being put out there. Because I don't talk with my mother, and I have no intention of ever doing that. Never. Because ultimately, and we're going to get into that later, there can only be, and for women, this is going to be a lifesaver for you in a lot of disputes that you may have had, or will have in the future. It's that you can only, for men also, I mean, don't get me wrong, but a lot of women in these times think they can cross the line, and thinking there won't be any repercussions because of that. And I'll tell you this, you could cross only so many boundaries multiple times until people just had enough of your shit. Just had enough. And saying that, however, when I was hospitalized and ultimately did come back to live with my parents, I just saw like my feminine parental figure. I saw her just drinking a lot more, gambling profusely, and really seeing her turn into a whole different person. A person I could no longer recognize. And after a few arguments afterwards, I recognize also that that's a person I could really no longer be with. But hey, we all got that going on, like, oh yeah, she's your mother, and this and this and that. And especially in other cultures, specifically with my experience, the Caribbean, that is stigmas put on you a lot. But really, there is no excuse for people in general, but your parents behaving shitty and just you having to be okay with that. It just isn't. And yeah, I'm putting this on many profiles, so if they're gonna have a problem with that, tough luck. Should have been better. But yeah, ultimately, it really comes down to, yeah, your body, like everything in you, not just your brain, but your body, your gut, just like everything starts to react when you've just had enough. You've just had enough of other people's shit. And it's ultimately recognized that my mother was putting pressure on me, not for me, but for others. Because it came down to when I have a sister, she had an apartment with someone else, and my mom just pushing me to a whole other range of stuff that I didn't want to do. I had a job, I was fine, I'm just living, and it's like, yeah, you need to look for a better job. You need to look for a better job quickly. And it is like, well, why? So you can have an apartment like your sister. I'm like, ultimately, that apartment, she didn't have it for long. I'm just gonna put it like that. And ultimately, it was like, yeah, but why do I need that apartment? She couldn't answer that. And one thing I will give you all watching, yes is an answer, no is an answer. No answer is also an answer. So keep that in mind when you're in an argument with someone, or you're texting someone and they're not replying. No answer is also an answer. So that was a lot of it to put on, and just like as time went on and things did never change, I'm seeing like, all right, I get it now. Like when I got my spiritually enlightened moment, I was like, okay, this woman doesn't in any way, shape, or form love me. Because if you did, you would respect the journey. That not everyone is on your frequency, not everyone is on your journey. And I'm putting it lightly because, yeah, how do you tell how do you tell 20 years in a couple of minutes? So that's why, like, I could go into so much detail, but God, I've been through that so many times. And as I said, I didn't even want to make the video. But I gotta go with what my gut tells me, what my intuition tells me. And, you know, if this helps a lot of people down the line, you know what? I'll be happy I did it anyway. But just like, it's tough to cram those 20 years into a couple of minutes. It just doesn't go. Really, you're getting a summary. You're getting a highlighted summary of events that led me to just like completely separating, not just from her, but a lot of family. Like pretty much almost all my family. Like I only have like my Aunt Ruth and her husband, my Uncle GB. And when it comes to family, that's the only ones I'm interested in talking to. Because, not to say that, hey, every relationship got our problems, and but I've never felt that from them, and I'm not even gonna speak on that. But every time I went to that house, growing up, it was nothing but love. There was nothing but, you know, genuine care for who I was, where I was going to go, and you know that love. Like for example, like Aunt Ruth. Man, I love her. She's such a strong woman. And my Uncle GB is like the dad that should have been in my life, but wasn't. But like I said, you know, you don't choose your familia. And but ultimately, yeah, because there were like a couple of things, just a lot of gaslighting moments, and there have been quite a few. But the one that really got me over the edge, because it was a two-parter. This next story is the real reason why I decided not to continue that family bond with my mother, even after so much trying and so much shit. And because people think I'm causing drama or I'm creating drama. No, I've been past that after a lot of therapy, which ended up not helping at all, which really was just you know, attempts to delay me. Ultimately, therapy is designed to delay the process of figuring out who you are. And honestly, I don't even look back at it in too much of a negative way, because it did help me get a lot further than most people will ever get. But you know, like I'm like me figuring out that I was having like zero love and respect in my family dynamic. And I was telling the story about what really drew me over. It was a two-parter. I believe I've already did a video on, you know, what success meant for me, and it wasn't until yesterday where I realized, like, yeah, I've achieved the success that I wanted. Or let me put it this way: I achieved the state of being that my successful life is getting to, where it will ultimately lead to. I've reached the state of mind where I can say, this is how I want to be successful. Not that I have achieved a whole lot. And just because monetary success, which I never believed in, monetary success is a reflection of how successful you see yourself to be. But what really drew me over the edge was a conversation that started with that. Because what success meant to her and what success meant in the Caribbean in general was never my definition of success, which why I've stated many times that, yeah, I hated growing up there for that reason, because it's so egotistical over there, so superficial, where I'm sitting there like, nah, I want no part of this. So I was always against the grain in that aspect. But it's a conversation about that version of success. And I'm not gonna say who she mentioned because, like I said, she's doing very good, and no ill will towards her, and that's how I want to keep it that way. Because I really don't have beef with anybody. I don't start confrontation, but sometimes, and if there's anything you could take away from that, sometimes trouble just wants to find you. And when Lao Tzu says there's no greater mistake one can make than defending themselves, trust me, after some of my situations, I almost, when it comes to the mind, he's correct, but when it comes to physicality, I'd say fuck that shit. No, you got to prepare, because sometimes motherfuckers just want a piece of you, and you did absolutely nothing to instigate that. Doesn't matter what gender you are or the gender in front of you. Like, some people just want to start shit. But yeah, back to the conversation. It's really, she was measuring another person's success and used that to reflect my version of success. Like, yeah, why aren't you like her? She's successful, she's making money, she's studying, and here it comes. She's taking care of her parents. It's like, oh, so that's the reason. And that's why I said, like I said in the beginning of the video, don't ask, if you're a parent out there, don't ask your child to do anything for you you've never done for yourself. Don't. Because resentment from that child to you will be astronomical. Believe me, it'll be phenomenal hate thrown at you at the end. And if you let that child discover certain things on their own, you can guide them. But that way, like, as soon as those words were thrown out, cool. Yeah, I went off. And yeah, because other people's version of success doesn't have to be your defining moment of success. Like, when I did the video, like, what success means to you? What really does it mean to you? You tell me. Because I found people who are achieving that Jeff Bezos type of success. Let me tell you something. People who are chasing that, and I'll do another video about that too, so because people think that, like, talk to any successful person, they'll tell you not to chase what the rest of the world is chasing. And that version of success ultimately did not comply with mine. And I accepted that. So why she never could is beyond me. But as soon as those words were said, yeah, she's studying, I wasn't. She's making a lot of money. I wasn't making a lot, but I was making enough. I was taking care of myself. And I was doing what I was supposed to do. So, but as soon as she said that, that's where, like, all the words you've previously heard and absorbed and put into your system and didn't understand why started to make sense. It was like, oh, so that was your end game the whole long. You didn't care whether I was happy or not. You didn't care how my life went as long as it benefited you. As long as you were able to profit from my work, from my sweat, from my tears, I was the proper son. As long as I was a money-making machine, you didn't care whether I dropped dead or I was miserable as fuck. You didn't care. That, not even if she was watching or listening, I don't give a shit, but it's like, that's what was going through my mind. I'm giving you a picture clear moment what was going on through my mind, and I went off. It's like, if you, meaning my mother, had you put on the proper example, all right, we would have done that. Had you shown us the proper way, sure. Had you given us the proper love and attention, sure, no problem. But don't be, and a lot of, like, people in general do that, but in my experience, a lot of women, like, give absolutely so little and expect everything in return. And that ultimately led to, because, like I said, a lot of women, but not all women, because I've met plenty of women who don't share that same fucked up mindset. And those are the women I'm attracted to. Those are the women I pursue. And a lot of women don't realize that all these toxic examples that I shared with you all today, it just leads to a lot of resentment, tears, unnecessary bullshit that I'm thinking like this. And as a man, you're not expecting, all right, the one who gave you life that you adored to speak to you like that, to treat you like that, to humiliate your journey like that. And I wouldn't say I cried, because trust me, by that time the tears were done. Like, I've been through a lot where the tears have gone. I've shed all I need to, and I've shed more than enough for that woman. But regardless of that, regardless of what she said, that's not what ultimately drove me to the edge. Not at all. Not a bit. Because in the materialistic planet that we're living on, all right, I understood even that. So even then, all right, after saying something so fucking horrific, even that I could let slide. Now, ultimately, this one is the one I could never let slide. With all the shit I've been through with that woman, all right? Having an abusive male figure in my life, who not only physically and psychologically abused her, but me also. What came out of her mouth in another argument was the one that made me say, fuck you, you bitch. And I don't like to use that word at all. But what she said afterwards, when she said in the afterwards, drove me over the edge. That was the one that's like, you've crossed a boundary that is unforgiven. And toxic people don't realize that you get to go too far. When a lot of people fuck over nice people. Like really, my emotions, like, not all over the place, but it kind of gets stirred up again, because, you know, I haven't suppressed it. I've made abundantly clear to her and to those of my environment also who are connected with her as well, that yeah, you know, it's done. But yeah, I even forgot to mention what really drove me over the edge. That I don't know I don't remember exactly what we were arguing about, but it was something along the lines to do with the previous argument. And ultimately, we were talking about what happened and why she hadn't apologized. Yeah, that was it. She didn't apologize for the previous because in her deranged, fucked up mind, she didn't do or say anything wrong. And it's like, you don't know the damage you've put on me. You don't know the pressure unnecessarily that's been put on me just for a type of success that would make look good to you. I'm living my own life, and not even letting me finish, she put all her shit out, and it's like, you know what? Okay, I'll take this one again. But here comes the dropping bomb, where she blatantly and unapologetically let me know that her children were the reason for her being unhappy. Me and my younger sibling being the reason for her being in an unhappy marriage. This was done somewhere along my 28th birthday, I remember, somewhere along those lines. Needless to say, I called her every fucking name I could think of at that time. After all the years, after all the psychological trauma that I had to endure, all the therapy I had to go through, all the times I stood by you when he was beating on you and me, all right? At 6 years old, from 6 till about the age of 17, having a 13-year-old's face being bashed in by an alcoholic pig. And you know, the fucked up part about it is that I told her at 16 to divorce the man she's still with, by the way. I told her to divorce him at 16. I begged her, like, Mom, I have no problem working. I have no problem doing whatever job. Let's just leave. All right? Me, you, my younger sibling, let's get out. Let's get out while we still have while we still can. But ultimately, she chose to stay. And not only did she choose to do that, but made that decision for me and my younger sibling as well. With all the drama that followed, with all the shit, and 13 years after all that, you're gonna lay your wasted memories, your wasted time, your regret, your misery, your inability to overcome fear, your inability to make the tough decisions, your inability to make life better for yourself, not only yourself, but your children. And you're gonna sit there and you lay that on me 13 years later, when I was the only one supporting you through this bullshit. Yo, that day said this was the last day. This was the last fucking day. I called her every name. Bitch, hoe, cunt. All the names. All the names. All of them. And I have no regret after what she said. After the words she said, like, that was the one line that was never meant to be crossed. Because her friends didn't give a fuck. Her co-workers didn't give a fuck. Matter of fact, she didn't give a fuck. to put her children through that. She didn't care how much it was devastating us. Hey, as long as she had that financial back pocket, because honestly, that's all she ever cared about. That's all it was being put on us too. Hey, we don't care who you are. We don't care how you are. We don't care how you develop. As long as you're a cog in the machine, as long as you generate enough money to keep me and the rest of my family not to do shit, then you're good. Then you're a socially acceptable man. And it pains me. It pains me still, because it shouldn't have had to happen that way. It should not have to be like that. And a lot of that is being put onto me again, because I have moved on. A lot of their shit was put on me. And the reason I felt drained the majority of my life is when I didn't realize how much of other people's shit I was carrying. We have no clue in the conscious 3D realm how much of other people's shit we carry with us each and every day. Like yesterday, some guy was trying to confront me over some line standing bullshit in the supermarket. Had this been 2 years ago, I would have just let that slide. If this happened a year ago, I would have probably let that slide. Not anymore. Because I recognize the longer you don't speak up, the longer you don't stand up for yourself, it's just the harder it's gonna be to live your own life. Because you're carrying what other people said, what other people didn't do, and all their projections of what they were never able to accomplish, they're putting that onto you. So this is the lesson why I'm making this video. Don't let your family's burdens become yours. You're your own person. You live your life on your pace, on your speed, and on your terms, and no one else's. No one else's. And that's praise to Mother Earth on that. That's praise to the cosmos, God. That's that's praise to all that is life. Carrying the world on your shoulders is one thing. Carrying other people's emotions on you is a whole other. And I've had so many instances where I consciously let that slide, but recognizing that unconsciously I was raised to let that slide all the time. And you can't sustain that, because the more you bottle up, the better chance it has of your brain just exploding with anger and all the emotions that you wish you never had adopted. But they all come from somewhere. And in my life journey, all the time I realized it wasn't mine, it was others. And I'm in such a great space where I am. The monetary success, it'll come. But the wasted burdens of others who are placed upon you, if you don't wake up to that truth, you have tough life ahead of you. I'll tell you, because you're not meant to carry other people's burdens. You're not meant to carry their baggage. You have enough, especially if you have a traumatic past. You have your own to carry. You have your own to deal with. You have your own self-discover journey ahead of you. And but coming back to that particular instance, where, ever since that moment, I decided I'm done. I have given you all the energy. I've given you all the love. And all I wanted was an equal return. And not only that, but you've shit on my life, spat in my face too many times. And that was like, now I've been stabbed in the back by my own mother a lot of times, but like that one, oh, that was en face. That was in my face. A stab in the heart. That was intentionally trying to hurt me. For all I wanted was a proper, not even a proper time, proper conversation. I just wanted a proper return, of the energy. Especially after all I've had to overcome. And, and whether we like to admit it or not, our relationships with our mother, I went completely opposite of what my family line ever did when it comes to relationships. And when it comes to that, there's enough I can tell you that there's just so much hypocrisy around Western relationships that, bruh, bruh, I'll be happily single for the rest of my life if I don't have to go through another minute of what, this show that people put on. I don't. Not at all. Happy where I'm at. Happy where I'm at. Happy where I'm gonna go. Because that took a lot to let go of. And from that moment on, I tried it from a distance afterwards, but by afterwards, I'm talking about like when that happened, that instance happened, that was 2019, end of 2019, and I legitimately did not speak to her again until beginning of the year. Still pondering in my head, like, should I give this a shot? But then, she said something other, that was just like, at the end, I recognized that, it's done. No. Like, the chapter on, that book has completely closed. There are no more chapters to write. There's no more amends to be made. Because you've crossed the line so many times that there is none to have. Let me put it this way. There is nothing as of today till the day she dies. And the reason I felt energetically and intuitively declined to make that video is because I woke up and had a perfect morning. And then she came into my energetic field again. Not even in my mind, not even my body. Like that foundation, brothers and sisters, is solid as a fucking rock. It's more solid than this. I'm solid right now. So, didn't even come up in my mind because, no, like in my energetic field again. And then I felt intuitively pushed to make this video. And probably because she has died inside. Well, karma, it is what it is. Ultimately, if you can't do the time, don't do the crime. Well, if you don't want to feel bad, don't make others feel bad. And yeah. I don't know what happened in her life, not in her life, but in her process to be in the position she's in. Because I felt a soul who was dead, a dying light. And as much as it I don't enjoy, I don't go off of I don't enjoy suffering. I don't enjoy other people's suffering. I don't want people to feel pain. But I'm not gonna stick around to carry the pain that you can't carry yourself. I'm just not. And even with reflection to my ex, because like I said, how your relationship with your feminine parental figure is how you're going to treat a lot of the relationships around you. And in the beginning of my life journey, I did a lot of fucked up shit to the women around me. Not all women, because I spend a lot of the time just avoiding even the concept of dating as much as I wanted to. Like, yeah, I wanted to be with a lot of women, and you know, I wanted to experience that, but my home was a house of fear. And I carried fear in my life way longer than any person alive should have. And even with my last ex, it was because we all end up dating our parents. And after that relationship, I realized, like, because I've said some, oh man, like I said, because how my life's gonna go, that shit's gonna surface up again, because I didn't feel like myself. And this particular individual, her name, I don't even want to mention her name, really, but yeah, I said a lot of nasty shit to her as well. But that is because, like my mother, just violated all boundaries, crossed so many lines, where I's at going, like, I'm taking spiritually my power back. You're not entitled to this. You didn't do none of the introspective work that is needed, because Western people think backwards. And yeah, like I said a lot of nasty shit to my ex, but that was in no way, shape, or form reflective on my mother, because by that time I'd already cut the ties. But yeah, but seeing as this is not what I'm about to say is not just a woman thing, but a lot of people just take. And with my ex, those boundaries were violated so many times, where it's like, nah, Comes a point in time where in any relationship, doesn't matter, family, friend, spouse, girl, whatever, comes a point in time where you're like, look, this just ain't gonna work. This ship has completely sailed. And because just like my mother, even with my ex, like I gave them both every chance to make it work. Gave so many chances. And still, people don't understand how they weaponize forgiveness. They weaponize forgiveness thinking that you're just gonna, oh yeah, I'm just gonna keep doing the same shit and he's gonna forgive me anyway, cause, so I can have an excuse to do the same shit and he's gonna forgive me anyway, so I have nothing to worry about. Well, you could not be more wrong. Absolutely could not be more wrong. So, I've laid down a bit too much. Hold on. I gotta do this again. And now I still look like a garden gnome. Oh, wow. What a lighting. I feel praised. Yeah. And, yeah. I forgot where I was after that one. And maybe that's for the best. But, yeah. As much as we want to, not everything's meant to last. And with certain energetic shifts, I'm gonna take a moment of silence for the soul that is lost. Because, it's so weird that once you recognize the connectiveness of it all, that you can feel just, no matter where you are in the world, you can just feel anything and everything because of that connectiveness. And like I've said, I'm connected to the cosmos now. It's not just me. It's not just the trees. Planetary. It's journey's gone beyond that. But that also means you feel a lot. And yeah, felt today is not sad for me, but sad for her, because I felt her soul dying. Yeah, it happens, It's just like in the medical field, can't save everyone. That's one hard lesson I've learned. Even with me, because some journeys just have to be done solo. And a lot of people seek either validation from others or prevent themselves from that conversation is because they're afraid. And they have very good reason to be afraid. Because whatever Oh, I'm getting a signal. Yeah. Everything is like a coin. On one hand, you have who you think you are, and the other who you actually are. And the two could contradict each other very differently. And I pray for the lost soul, which is my mother's. Not Mother Earth, but my Earth Mother. Yeah. I'm beyond the point of wishing her well. I'm beyond forgiving her. I forgave myself. Like, you can forgive someone else, but it takes a lot more to forgive yourself for being in the same shitty situation a lot, and just keep going with it. And I can't blame you because the tools weren't given, but yeah, know your morals, live by your codes, and it'll be easier to not only find the people who are on your same vibrational frequency, but it's also a lot easier to push out who isn't with you. Not really. And sadly, I discovered my own family was a big part of that. But healing the world is great. Healing yourself comes first. That is it. I don't know. Like I said, I felt so conflicted about making this video, especially after the spiritual deal, but I felt it. I felt I had to do it. Universe, Mother, Cosmos was telling me to do it. So I do. And like I said, I had been through this by myself a lot, so like I said, it the only thing making me feel any type of positivity about this video is that it'll help a lot of other people not go through with it as long as I did. Because it takes a lot of strength to hold on and keep going, but it takes a lot more to just let go and say, fuck it. And the signs are right there, all the birds. Like, I don't know if you see it, but look at them. Now, if that ain't a sign, I don't know what is, bro. I even see them walking now. And yeah, shit is just like, it just, today's video, personally, that's the only gratitude I hope to get out of this, is that, yeah, it helps a lot of other people not go through with this. Whether it's family, whether it's friendships. Like, I cut a lot of friendships out for that same reason. It's like, you're just different. And yeah, I feel no type of remorse for the video. I mean, other than to make sure a lot of men out there just, you know, be careful who you surround yourself with. Be careful who you allow in your space. And, you know, had I known back then what I know now, I was like, hey, I would have, look, you can't put a price on the peace of mind. I would have happily ran away, lived on the street, and just as much as I did not have to worry, like I was watching, man, it makes so much sense. Like, I was watching a documentary, and it was like, it's better to it's better to build a strong man than to repair a broken one. That was a saying coming from a Yakuza member. And that's ultimately the reason why I made this video. Because if you make the tough decisions when you're young, even though they might be tough in the moment, it's a lot better than to have to go through with it and having to spend years either in therapy or just in complete doubt of what and how you have to heal. Because all that time spent healing could have been spent on other things. All that time wasted on trying to make things work for others, you could have used on making things work for yourself, your future, your life. No matter who you are, no matter where you're from. That should be your priority. And then, you know, regardless of what you do for others, like, make sure you come first. And I had to fight fucking hard for that. And look, like I said, I'm happy to be alone for the rest of my life than to let people in who just aren't matching me. That's it. I've made peace with that. And even though my garden gnome status, you know, is not at full ball out mode yet, I'm going to, because, you know, it's written. It's predestined, bruh. Can't deny that shit, bruh. Not at all, but yeah. So I hope it helps whoever's out there. Don't stay in fucked up situations just because they're a family member. Often or not, if you don't have a family, a loving one, create one. I'm doing that. I have so many people in my life to be grateful for, thankful for. I was like, damn, how did I... Blessings. Take them and run with it. Take them. And the biggest blessing is sometimes having to let go of someone. Word up. And having said that, I'm gonna leave you all. I'm not leaving this spot because I'm making other videos and this is the best office I've ever had in a long time, so I'm gonna make use of that shit. Que lo pasé también en español, empapiamiento también, y no traen lenguajes porque ya hay muchos otros lenguajes para aprender, y esa es la hermosura de la vida, para aprender. Y ya, que seas feliz en tu propio cuerpo y feliz de tu propia manera de vivir, ni más que la situación. Esa es la mejor, te lo juro. Puedes vivir por familia, pero cuando la familia se murió, sí, ¿qué pasó? No hay nada, solo hay ti. Y en las comunidades de Latinoamérica también sean situaciones también que teníamos escoger sobre nuestros mayores o nada. Y tienes tu propia vida. Ya. Todos tenemos un pasado, pero todos tenemos un futuro también, y no dejar el pasado sea tu futuro. All right. And having said that, time to do other things for now. Have a good one. And as always, see you on the next one.